So far, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is proving to be a champ at taking photos with its refreshed cameras, showing off its much improved macro and low light performance. In my iPhone 16 Pro Max vs Galaxy S24 Ultra photo shootout, Apple's flagship easily cruised to the finish line, but what I'm much more excited about is how an iPhone 16 Pro Max versus Pixel 9 Pro XL turns out. That's because I spent nearly a year with the Pixel 8 Pro, which I think was one of the most underrated phones released in 2024. With its spiritual successor, the Pixel 9 Pro XL, Google gives us a main 50 megapixel camera, 48 megapixel ultrawide, 48 megapixel telephoto with 5x optical zoom, and a 42 megapixel selfie camera. Out of the bunch, the latter is technically new hardware. In my Pixel 9 Pro XL review, I mentioned how it's still the AI phone to beat with its new generative features and intuitive photo editing tools. Apple's obviously not looking to sit quietly, so the iPhone 16 Pro Max is expected to extend its lead in our best camera phones list. Given how our Pixel 9 Pro XL versus iPhone 15 Pro Max photo shootout turned out, this might yet be another easy victory for Apple. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is armed with a 48 megapixel main shooter, 48 megapixel ultrawide, 12 megapixel telephoto with 5x optical zoom, and a 12 megapixel selfie camera. Soon after Apple's Glow Time event in Cupertino, I brought along both phones to nearby Half Moon Bay to shoot some photos with them, then proceeded to view what I captured on a monitor later on for a proper side-by-side comparison. This is Photo Shootout. Starting off by the beach, the iPhone's main camera does a much better job at capturing the scene. But I will say the Pixel 9 Pro XL does an excellent job as well. Both managed to capture the textures of the Adirondack chairs in the foreground, but the iPhone 16 Pro Max's image gets more of my attention due to its warmer color temperature and brighter exposure. The Pixel 9 Pro XL is a smidge underexposed and the colors are oversaturated. For their dynamic range performance, I pointed the two towards the beer taps at the bar because of the strong light source coming from the outside. The first thing I noticed is that the Pixel 9 Pro XL doesn't tone down the highlights as good as the iPhone 16 Pro Max because the bright areas outside are overblown. Meanwhile, the iPhone manages to balance out the exposure between the shadows and highlights better. This mosaic in downtown Half Moon Bay has a ton of color, and when I look quickly, they look identical to me. But when I zoom into different parts of the photo, like the orange pumpkin in the lower bottom, the iPhone's brighter exposure gives it the extra pop that gets my attention. Even though it's not as apparent here, I noticed that the Pixel 9 Pro XL tends to produce the most saturated colors between the two. I know it might be hard to see it, but the Pixel 9 Pro XL's ultra-wide camera has a wider 123-degree field of view, so you'll get more of the shot in frame versus the iPhone's 120-degree one. For this one, I like the Pixel more partly for how the colors pop and its stronger contrast. Both capture a lot of detail with the stained glass windows, but the iPhone's a tad softer with the details. Just look at the edges of the window frame and the siding of the church. These macro photos of this flower are dramatic. I can't believe how close I'm able to get with their respective macro modes, but the iPhone 16 Pro Max pulls up the better capture. I'm astounded by the amount of detail, including all the pollen around the petals and even the hidden spider right smack in the middle. The Pixel 9 Pro XL also captures a superb shot that's rich in detail, but it doesn't achieve the same level of definition. Plus, it's really heavy with the color saturation. The Pixel 9 Pro XL's meteor 42 megapixel selfie is the clear winner in these selfie shots I captured of myself. Not only does this new autofocus camera have a wider 103-degree field of view that lets me fill out more of the scene, but it captures sharper details around my face, like my hairline, and yes, my wrinkles. The iPhone 16 Pro Max's 12 megapixel selfie camera isn't too shabby either, but the Pixel wins this one. One thing to note about taking portrait photos with the Pixel 9 Pro XL is that the minimum zoom is 1.5 times, while the iPhone 16 Pro Max can shoot them at 1 time zoom. Both phones managed to capture my colleague Kate with plenty of crisp details, like the Apple Watch Series 10 on her wrist, but when I look around the edges of her face, I like how the iPhone casts the soft blur around the edges, whereas the Pixel doesn't have as much consistency, like how some parts of the edges are in focus and others are not. In true flagship form, they both feature dedicated telephoto cameras with 5x optical zooms. You'll be able to get closer to faraway objects than their main cameras without losing much detail. But these shots I captured at 5x zoom are tough. They both managed to match each other in terms of detail and clarity, like the textures of the giant eye and the letters around it. I really love how these panoramas turned out. Most importantly, they managed to have a consistent exposure throughout the shot. Plus, they contain a lot of detail. There are ripples in the far background overlooking Half Moon Bay Beach, as well as the license plates of the cars on the left. The biggest difference for me, however, is how the iPhone 16 Pro Max's shots look brighter and more vivid. Since the bar at Half Moon Bay Brewery was already dark, I tried out the respective night modes on my Lonely beer. They're mostly the same, but the Pixel 9 Pro XL's tendency for saturating the colors is pronounced here again, and there's this odd green tint to the reflecting area in the back. Switching it up, take a look at the shots from my backyard. The area around the tree and closed-off patio are just about pitch black, with my neighbor's floodlight in the far background being the strongest source of light. The iPhone shot is superior, not only for its brighter picture and vibrant colors, but also for the amount of detail it captures with the tree and its branches. Look, there's just no stopping the iPhone 16 Pro Max. After cruising to the finish line against the Galaxy S24 Ultra, it also pushed ahead against the Pixel 9 Pro XL in this photo shootout. While the iPhone 16 Pro Max's camera performance is the clear winner here, I wouldn't count out on the Pixel just yet because I prefer how it has a richer camera experience, meaning it offers the manual controls I crave for photography, along with the ability to auto-track subjects when I record video. There's also the AI-assisted tools that make it helpful, like Magic Editor and AdMe. Apple's still getting its feet wet with Apple Intelligence, so there's a long way to go before it can match the Pixel, but when it comes to purely camera performance, it can't be beat. Who do you think won this photo shootout? Let me know your thoughts and reasons in the comments below. Don't forget to watch the rest of our iPhone 16 coverage, including our full review from Mark as well as Kate's Apple Watch Series 10 review. Make sure to follow us on social @TomsGuide, and as always, I'm John V, and I'll see you soon.